know what really makes us mad? Is wasting money on CDs with only one or two good songs.
Yeah. Tell them about punk.
What's up, posers? Welcome to Punk Lotto Pod. I am your co-host, Justin Hensley.
And I am your other co-host, Dylan Hensley.
And today we are talking with Nicholas Pentabona and Morgan Burns of the band Bedtime Magic. They are the band Bedtime Magic. Really good band out of Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, so check them out.
Yeah, they put out a record called Pillow Talk in 2019, and it was put out on Nefarious Industries Records. We talk about it a little bit on there, and then they have quite a few other things on Bandcamp as well. And they kind of came to us through our friend Paul. So Paul toured Johnson Records and Teeth Like Swords Printing and Sidorak. He's a man of many different avenues. But what are we talking about today, Dylan?
So we are talking about the 1998. Not 1997 album, Smile When You Hate by Non Compos Mentis. We mentioned it briefly, but there's a little discrepancy about the release year of that record. And then generally all things hardcore, metalcore, mathcore, whatever of 1998, which is kind of a peak year for that sound. So a lot to unpack and digest. Don't feel like we talked about the actual album enough, but I still think it was a lot of fun to listen to. So
yeah, it's a fun conversation. I mean, this show has evolved into just like a hangout. So if this isn't your kind of show, and sorry, don't leave us a bad review.
It's just dudes giggling for 2 hours.
Yeah, well,
about bands no one's ever heard of.
As our good,
they'll say some guy's name who's in a band and everybody laughs. What's so funny about it?
Yeah, and you can follow us on all forms of social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at PunkLottoPod. We have an email. It's punklotopod@gmail.com. And I'm doing like the Alice's Restaurant thing at the end where you can follow us all there. Yeah, you know what to do. It's all in the show notes. All the good stuff's there. But yeah, this is coming out the day after Election Day.
Right, so, it is.
We just realized this right now as we're getting ready to wrap this up.
Good. Yay. We need to record 2 different versions of this, I guess, in case of good news. In case the results were not good, we might just have to record like an emergency.
Yeah, so either hooray or good night and good luck.
Yeah, we'll plug something else in here in case these things don't go well.
Anyway, try and enjoy this episode if things went bad. If things went bad, we may delay this episode a week.
Yeah.
good tint. Let's see. I'm trying to think. We should probably like do something where it's like you two differentiate your voices for like the listener, just so they're not like, I don't know which one's which, but
Sure.
But we can do that in a little bit.
I'm the really sexy one, right? Right. That's how that works, right? Right. I have the really nice voice in the band. I'm being facetious, probably.
Do you both sing in the band, or is it?
We do.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
If you want to call it that, yeah.
The way I see it, the reason I do most of the stuff online and whatnot is because when we're performing, he plays drums, keyboard with his foot, sings, and has to make all the jokes. And I'm like, all right, well, I should do something in the band. So I do a lot of the social media stuff.
Hell, even just setting up drums for a show is like enough to.
Dude, it's nuts. And then when I run out of money, he always fronts me money. So it's like basically he is the band, and I'm like, I'm his cheerleader. So I'm like, go Morgan.
Yeah, but you book all the shows and write the vast majority of the music. So, I guess we could split it.
Yeah.
Say 50-50.
Yeah, 40-60. That works.
That's kind of like how we do this show.
So which one is Dylan? Is he
more
me or
like
is he Morgan?
70-30.
Oh, okay.
Justin does most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I do like the booking, the scheduling, the editing, just about everything.
Yeah,
Dylan just kind of shows up.
Yeah.
So
I usually don't even know what we're talking about just until like the day before. So
how do you guys decide like what how does the lotto work? Like in terms of like how do you guys decide what record or like what year you're going to talk about? Like, is there a formula or is it just like do you like sort of throw a dart at a dartboard?
So like early on, it was very much this website, Rate Your Music, has like these charts that you could break down by year and like genre, and like you can get real like minuscule with some of that stuff. So it basically turned into, it started as we put a number generator for the year, and then we do a number generator for an album and an EP, and then like all random, except for like we would get like these records from bands that like no one had heard of, and no one was going to download the episode to hear us listen.
We would randomly draw like Slovenian grindcore records that you can't find anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
down for Slov grind?
What's on the page that is at least a recognizable name to us?
Yeah.
And
what's one of the ones that you found that was just total garbage? You were like, we can't talk about this. This isn't gonna work.
We would like sample it to make sure it was like at all something that we could talk about. But then
even then we didn't filter out a couple of really rough ones.
Yeah, like we would get these like real rough early demos from bands that were like, it's not fair to judge it as like this is a finished product because very much it was just a tape recorder. Like,
yeah,
right.
We did like some. I think we
did the first Darkest Hour demo, and that one was like none of these songs are good.
Yeah,
their demo was in. Oh wait, no, I was thinking '98 because we're talking about '98 today. I was about to go. Wait a minute, that can't be right. But
no, they had records out.
Yeah, they had records out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right around that time.
So Serene, So Secure, or whatever was like '99 or 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think like Mark of Judas was like '97. So
yeah.
So then it kind of evolved from we started like getting. It used to just be the two of us, and so then it evolved to us having guests on, and we would like have like a list of like pre-selected things already for people to talk about, and like people would then be like, "Do you have anything else? Like something better?"
we would have we'd have selections for like at least every decade, like something from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and we would send people that list, and then they're like, I don't know any of these. We're like, well, okay, maybe we give you a year that
and then
you
we
feel
work backwards from there.
qualified to talk about, and then you find something that you want to talk about.
So then eventually we were just like, okay, let's just give people a year and let them pick what they want to talk about. And the way we pick the year, too, is even like, what era are you most familiar with? Or would you like to talk about a record from?
Sure.
So we've done a lot of 90s recently just because, like, everybody has been in their 20s. So, like, everybody wants to talk about 90s records. People in their 30s will talk about 80s records, but...
Yeah.
But I'm in my 40s, So
well, you count as two 20-year-olds now. So.
Yeah. So then we get something.
yeah, and
like,
just two 20-year-olds standing on each other.
I'm probably most familiar with like this era of like punk rock or whatever, like because I turned 21 in 1998. So like
kidding me? I never did the math on that. You're right though, because you're like 3 or 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
Huh. That was a big year for you.
Nicholas, did you pick this record without asking Morgan?
I would say most things. Well, he knows the record, and we're both very familiar with the label. And it was like, where do we go? Because, for instance, for me, I noticed when Forever Comes Crashing came out that year, I could spend this entire podcast talking about that. But that's, I feel, well-trodden territory. This is a record that's actually interesting. I mean, not to say that other one isn't, but this is, like, new for a lot of people,
Yeah, it was very new for us. We can talk about since you already talking about the year, we can talk about some other records that came out that year. It's like we've never done a Converge record, so if you had to pick that one for the show, it would have been new for the show. But at the same time, like it is a very well-known record, so it's not like
it's extremely well-known. And then when what was the Epitaph re-released it had a broader audience, so it became more of like a mainstream thing because anybody could buy it at their local Sam Goody. Is Sam Goody still around? I don't even.
Probably not.
No, but the place they buy things, Best Buy. So.
Yeah.
Do
Walmart.
Best Buy CDs anymore?
I bought my first Converge CD at a Best Buy.
Did you?
Was No Heroes.
Ooh.
Probably the month it came out, or shortly after.
I 100% bought when Forever Comes Crashing because there was a dead baby on the cover. That was exactly why I bought it. I didn't know the band or anything. I was like, dead baby, it's going to be good.
I definitely played a show with Converge in 1998.
Did you?
Yeah.
With Coleman?
Was it one of those?
Coleman was done at that point. I played in this band called I Quit for a while, and a bunch of the guys that were in that band, they used to do this place in Worcester, Mass, called the Space. That had it was like an all ages place. That it was like volunteer run or whatever, and those guys were like sort of some of the main folks, and so we ended up playing there a lot because they booked most of the shows there, and what was it was like maybe a punk rock prom or something like that year. We definitely we played with Converge there. Converge, they're sort of from fairly close by, so they played there a whole bunch. Yeah, I knew all those guys back then.
I was gonna say, was it one of those shows where you see the flyer today and you're just like, holy shit, all of these bands were on the same show? I just found one that says Shy Halud, Floor Punch, Game Face, Converge, Damnation AD, One King Down, In My Eyes Saves the Day. Like
those are all the time. Yeah, it was like, and you'd be like, oh, this lineup again. Like I saw Bane 30 times. I was so sick of them.
Right. Like honestly, my memories of those shows would be like after the third or fourth band being like, oh man, I'm so bored. Like, what? It was a good idea to put 8 bands on a show. I just want to play and go home.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I saw at the Space Reversal of Man, which I just saw. Revolution Summer came out in '98, so I guess that would have been on my top 10 things to talk about too.
Yeah, I was probably at that show then.
Oh, really? We just didn't know each other yet?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you were like a little guy. You were a teenager, and I was like I was in my 20s.
I didn't have facial hair until I was in my early to 30s, till I was 32. So I think I was pretty much a little man until.
I still can barely grow any facial hair, and I'm in my 40s. So
Yeah, Justin, you got beautiful facial hair, dude.
I've had this since I was 14.
No, you haven't. Really?
He got all the beard genes because this is the best I can do. If I grow this any longer, it's really sad looking. It's just it's longer, but you can see straight through it. You can just see the skin under it.
Yeah. I look like a 14-year-old boy who's really trying hard to grow out my it's patchy. There's big empty spots, and yeah. I thought there would be a point in my life where I would have all my hair and not have any zits, and maybe be able to grow a beard all at the same time.
Psych.
Totally did not work out that way. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm definitely losing on that battle up top there.
I'm 30 and I'm wearing a hat inside. You do that. Let's get into my body dysmorphia on the pod.
Yes. Let's do this.
So, I guess for the listeners' sake, you're from Boston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Morgan's kind of been all over, but Boston's where you've really been for most of your life, right?
Yeah, I've been here 26 years. So
yeah.
And as a band, we're from Boston. We practice in Boston. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Back when we used to book shows, was Matahari from Boston, or were they from outside?
They were from right outside, and if you take my oh wait, my knuckles do say Matahari. So yeah, it says Matahari on my knuckles.
So you know them?
I didn't get it because of them, but people brought it to my attention after I got this tattoo. They were like, "Oh, is that from Matahari?" I'm like, "No, it's from Matahari."
It's a thing.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, we booked them once or twice. Once, I think.
Once. Yeah, they played the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at?
I am in Hickory, North Carolina, which is about an hour north of Charlotte.
Oh, all right.
And I grew up, obviously, I'm his brother. I grew up there as well, but I do live in Phoenix now. So.
Oh, all right.
Why'd you move to Phoenix?
Just because.
Okay. It's a good reason to go to a place that's 120 degrees in the summer.
Yeah. We're you know what? We've been to the desert in the summer, and it was super hot. Let's go back there and just experience that on a daily basis. It's great right now, though.
Oh,
it's actually been on the cooler side, which is especially nice.
What is that for you?
I mean, it's been in the 60s.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Last couple
Been in
the
70s
hitting
here.
70 in the afternoon, but yeah.
This is the South. It's humid over here.
Oh.
Yeah, the Carolinas are always humid, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
Even in the winter when it's cold, it still feels damp.
Yeah. I played a show down there on New Year's Eve or something. Actually, in South Carolina, it was Columbia, I think, South Carolina. That's a place, right?
Yeah.
And I remember it was just really humid but cold, and I couldn't figure it out.
It's so funny. We get on weather all the time on this show. In the beginning. I don't know. I guess because Dylan's in Phoenix, so it always comes up.
Yeah.
Conglado weather check-in.
We're so very different places. I guess it's worth bringing up.
Give you the traffic update next.
I was looking back at the Bedtime Magic Bandcamp, and I saw as far back as 2014 on there. Is that when you guys formed, or did you start even earlier than that?
I think it was just before that, because I remember I was we should record something because we have a bunch of songs now. It was
it would have been either end of 2013 into right. It would have been the fall of 2013 or something, right?
Yeah, I think it was the fall or winter of 2013, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, but yeah,
How did you get set up?
How did we get started?
Yeah.
Nicholas put an ad on Craigslist, and I told him I wasn't going to give him a hand job.
I thought you said you would.
Sorry, that was a bad joke. Anyway, he put an ad up on Craigslist, and I had been playing it. I had played in a band for a long, long time, but I had stopped playing with it, and it had been it had been a couple months, and I was like looking to start playing again, and like all the guys I had been in bands with and stuff were already like doing other stuff, and so I was just like, sort of like just poking around, and like his dad, like mentioned a couple bands that I was into, and I sent him a message, and then like we started talking, and it turns out I actually like I knew him already. Like I didn't realize it was him, like that it was Nicholas when I was responding initially, but yeah, he used to work at a coffee shop that I used to go into like all the time.
That's right.
And so like we knew each other from there. And his old band, one of his old bands, had played a show with one of my old bands, and like sort of that's how it started anyway.
Yeah, he was, when I worked at 1369, we called him the high five guy, because he would always come in, get this drink that was very easy to make. So, after a long day of making complicated drinks, you're like, oh, finally, it's this guy who wants one simple, easy thing. And he would get everybody on staff, like whether they were downstairs or on break, to come out and high five him. So when he answered the ad, I was like, you're the high five guy. And that was kind of, I was like, oh, this guy will be cool. And then I had written one song to try out. I wanted to do the band at just bass and drums because I had spent $2,000 on a Rickenbacker. I was working like double shifts at jobs just to afford it. And I bought the Rickenbacker, and I was like, if you have a Rickenbacker, you have to play it. It's too expensive to not play. And I wrote a song for it, and I was like, the song's going to go kick snare, kick snare, kick snare, kick snare. And this guy refused to play that. Like, he was like, boom, ba, do, ba, do, ba. And I was like, okay, he's got ideas that I don't have. He's going to make me do interesting stuff. We should play together from now on.
Right. Yeah, definitely the first time we played, you were like, no, like play like the punk rock beat.
Yeah, you went, no.
No. Like, I do play that beat, but like for the song that it was like that. No, that's not going to be any good. That's not actually what you want.
That's brazen to meet somebody for the first time and just say no when you're looking at them.
I gotta know what the drink is. It was so easy that like everybody loved me.
Thai iced tea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you batch it, and then you pour it in a cup and pour a little cream on top. So all the work is done by the time the customer comes in. And we were 1369. There's 2 locations, and it's more of a, I can't think of what the word is, but it's the kind of coffee shop you go to when you want like a great espresso they worked hard on, and you want them to foam the milk like perfectly. And you get a lot of demand for that, but it can wear you out. So to just make a Thai iced tea, you're like, oh, thank goodness.
Right. You just had to pour it in a cup. Like that was it, like, right. No foaming, nothing.
You don't gotta weigh your shot.
We weighed our shots.
Dial everything in. I work in a coffee shop.
Yeah, you know what's up, man. Yeah. And we had a training lab because they really wanted you to get it right. So once a month, they'd have you go over the training lab and you check concentration. You do taste testing. You'd go home and couldn't sleep at night, all caffeinated.
They had like they had pictures up on the wall. Like there was like like a local photographer had done a series of like portraits, which was like the hands of the employees and like the cappuccino that they had made. So it's like all these pictures of like fancy cappuccinos with like the little leaf design in the foam, or like the heart, or you've worked in a coffee shop, so like they have all those there's all the like fancy swirl you can make in the cappuccino and all of that. Yeah. So they had like, it was that kind of place. They had pictures of those, like, check out what we do. We foam some milk.
So you're a drum and bass duo, with some like additional gear thrown in there, of course, but not like the electronic kind, in case drill and bass or anything like that.
Tom York and the Radioheads,
right? But you've got this. I mean, I'm sure this gets brought up a lot, but you've got this like Amphetamine Reptile records, Touch and Go records, like vibe with your sound. Like I hear a lot of Unsane and Jesus Lizard. I was listening to your record Pillow Talk that came out last year on Nefarious Industries, and I saw that it was put out on uncolored PVC. That is insane. I have never seen that before.
We had to work hard to get that. What was the deal? We wanted to do like a picture disc, and nobody wanted to pay for a picture disc. And then we were like, we're going to have to sell a kidney to pay for this picture disc. So then we were like, what if we made the sleeve look like when you open the record, it's going to be a picture disc, but then when you pull it out, it's the furthest thing from a picture disc.
Right. Right. It's just like it looks like the color of the vinyl is like if you melted down like a milk jug.
Yeah.
You know, it's like sort of like hazy, clear plastic, like
Just
bland.
yeah, you couldn't be further from a picture disc with what because the label isn't the label just like a silhouette.
It's white on white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's white on white.
Oh, I see it. I just Googled uncolored PVC, and there's like maybe 40 pictures on Google Images, and like 4 of them are your record.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
So go Google that, and you'll see it. Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted it to be like completely clear, but they couldn't offer that to us. They were like, it's just not going to happen. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like I've seen some pretty clear records, but like, the actual like etched in like where the grooves are, it makes it not as see through as.
Yeah, it's like it's always a compromise, right? Like it's like if you do a picture disc, they look cool, but they sound like garbage. And then the more color in the vinyl, the more I guess the black in the vinyl helps with fidelity or something, or it helps keep the dust out. I don't know. There's some science to it. So we thought about doing a pink record. And they're like, oh, it's going to sound terrible. Oh, okay. I won't do a pink record then.
Do people play their records? That's the important question.
Right. You mean people that buy them and they just look at them?
Yeah.
They're pretty.
Listen once, then shelve. That's it.
Morgan actually listens to his records. Whenever I go over his house, he's got something on.
Yeah, I I collect records, not in the like, oh, check this out, it's worth $200, but it's like I like most of the music I have is on vinyl or whatever, so like I got many thousands of records.
You got an iPod too, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, I do have an iPod.
Yeah, he's an iPod guy. I offered to put him on my Spotify. He goes, what would I do with it? I'm like, I don't know, man. You got an iPod. Like, sort of one begets the other.
Yeah, actually, the last time I bought a phone, I was like, how much music can I put on there? And they were like, the person at the phone store was like looking at me. They're like, why don't you just stream it? And I was like, forget it. And basically like, well, because everything I want to listen to is from like 1998 that they made 200 copies on, some dude, like some dude pressed 200 copies of a 7-inch, and like that's what I want to hear. Spotify ain't got it.
Yeah, I've definitely got that like I can't find the album I want to stream. I can find this dumb like YouTube video of it, but like I have to have my phone open the whole time and draining my battery, or I can download it and then just throw it in the music file because nobody has it streaming.
Yeah.
Like the ease of Spotify is nice, but there's some gaps there.
Yeah, and it's like it's funny because this does segue a little bit. Morgan was saying in '98, when we get to talking about the record stuff, but it's the Ungodly Amounts of Meat came out, and whoever uploaded to Spotify got the like beginning and end of tracks wrong. So when you go to like one of the tracks, it's something about Mars, the Red Planet. You know that song? Yeah. It's the middle of the track. And you're like, unbelievable. So you have to go back and listen to the track before it. And then I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah, just somebody not paying attention when they're uploading it.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gave you the year 1998 to talk about, and you gave me 2 choices. And one of them, you specifically said was Better Than American Nervosa by Botch that came out in '98 as well. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, we're definitely going to talk about that one because that is a bold statement to make. What are some other '98 records we should mention as well, though? Like we said, Converge, When Forever Comes Crashing. Dylan, why don't you lead us in this?
Well, speaking of records that came out in 1998 that are not on Spotify, I think I noticed that the Locust self-titled record is not on Spotify.
Fantastic record.
That I went through my many records in a totally non-scientific formula of trying to find things that had come out in 1998, and that was like one of the first ones I found. I was like, I know this was like right around there because they had a bunch of 7-inches that had come out before them, and I had all of those. But yeah, the first Locust LP definitely came out in '98.
It's kind of crazy that it's not on Spotify because all of their other records are. So I'm surprised.
Who's the label who did that one?
Gold Standard, GSL, I think, put that one out.
But wasn't that Justin's label or whatever?
No,
No.
no. Justin does 31G records.
I thought that was like one and the same. Now they're two different things.
They a lot of like cross streams a lot, but that was GSL Gold Standard Laboratories was Sonny K, who was in a band called Angel Hair, and he was in the VSS, and then he did a band called Year Future, all of which are totally excellent if you're unaware of them. So he put out like that Locus LP and like a couple like 7 inches and stuff before that.
Oh.
I think they did like a Man is the Bastard record. They did like 31G and GSL were like same, you know.
Yeah, it's probably they just haven't uploaded that part of the like library yet. If it's like so closely related, there's like the band we're talking about today is their other album was on Tortuga, and that's not on Spotify. And it's like, isn't that just an imprint of Hydra Head? It doesn't make sense why a ton of other Hydra Head stuff's on there, but not the Tortuga stuff. I guess it's just like they haven't got around to uploading it because it's probably a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So I sort of I know those guys a little bit, like the Hydra Head guys and the man. I'm like name dropping right now, but anyway,
you dropped all these.
Yeah, like the Tortuga and the Hydra Head, like. Basically, like there was a guy Mark who was part of Hydra Head. You know, there's Aaron Turner, and then there was a guy like Metal Mark, and Mark did. I think Mark was sort of in charge of all the Tortuga stuff. At least that was like how I understood it at that point in time. You know, so like he did like them and like Scissor Fight and and 5. They put out a bunch of other stuff too. Yeah.
Tortuga. Does that mean turtle?
Yes.
Another big record, a really important one to me, at least, that I noticed going off of the, was also not on Spotify, which I knew it wasn't because none of her records are, but Bread and Circuits, the Sarah Kirsch band.
You're right.
That record came out in 98, which is, I think that's one of my favorites. Yeah. I don't know. I'm all over the place with all of those bands. Like,
I respect
every time
that
I'm
record.
listening to one, I'm like, oh, this is my favorite. So.
I couldn't get into that record, but I respect it heavily. Like, I know that it was important. It's like Morgan mentioned Refuse, The Shape of Punk to Come. Like, I personally don't like that record, but I acknowledge how important it was in the chain of events.
I mentioned that to you on the phone before we started talking to these guys, in case they were like, when did he say that?
You guys didn't hear Morgan? Morgan said that like 3 seconds ago.
Yeah, that Bread and Circus record is that's an awesome record. That's an awesome record.
I love every Sarah Kirsch band, like every band.
I think I nabbed my copy of this, like very comically yoinked it out from in front of Justin.
I think so.
At Arrow's Aim in Gainesville. It was either that or like the Fuel record. We like probably both saw it at the same time, and I was just a little bit closer.
What other projects are Sarah Kirsch? I don't even know.
Torches to Rome.
Please inform the captain. This is a hijack.
Mm-hmm. Bader Brains. What's some of the earlier ones? Sawhorse.
Fuel.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Right, like Speak 411, right?
John Henry West.
Oh man,
She was
that 7-inch was like that was some shit, man. When that record was awesome.
I think she was in Pinhead Gunpowder.
yeah, she was like very briefly in Pinhead Gunpowder.
Yeah.
I know Pinhead Gunpowder because I work at a tea company, but also because I just know Pinhead Gunpowder.
Yeah.
15.
I know 15.
Like very briefly.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, okay. I thought 15 was like San Francisco. Bread Circuits was San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In California,
Okay.
yeah.
all those Bay Area. She's like Bay Area bands.
Oh.
It's kind of funny because like 98 is really big for heavy stuff. So
Yeah.
there's the Converge record, there's the Botch record. Coalesce put out Functioning on Impatience, which is probably one of my favorites of that style.
It was their cleanest record. I think it was a smart record. And I honestly, this is gonna be heresy as well. I think it was better than American Nervosa. Obviously, We Are the Romans was their peak for Botch, but yeah.
I
agree.
I will definitely agree that Functioning on Impatience was better than American Nervoso.
There you go.
I know we'll get into it when we talk about the record, but
yeah, and then there's some more like pop-centric stuff. Alkaline Trio put out God Damn It. Bray did Frame and Canvas.
I saw that one. Like at that time, I had a girlfriend who was like obsessed with that band, and I could have sworn that like I was hearing that record before 1988. Like, and like now, like 20 years later or whatever, I actually really like that record. But at the time, it was like one of those ones of like, if I never fucking hear this band ever again, like I'll be totally all right with that. So I feel like if I don't know, I thought that record came out sooner, but it's listed as 98. But definitely, like in 1998, I never wanted to hear that record ever again.
I never want to hear In the Airplane Over the Sea for that exact reason, and that came out in 98.
I for some reason, Neutral Milk Hotel is like the perennial, like every subculture, indie, whatever kid gets into that record at some point. So I, having worked in coffee shops for the last couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, though, too, because then I would go to work and they'd be like, "Have you heard this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just heard it 10 minutes ago."
You get a 21-year-old who thinks they just discovered the most amazing obscure artist, and they play it all the time. You're like, "Oh my god, I never need to hear the out-of-tune trumpet and
yeah."
That record is to like 21-year-old kids as is Led Zeppelin is to like 13-year-old boys. Like, yo, listen to this. This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Who like gives them all this same record? Like it's like a rite of passage. It's like, you heard Neutral Milk Hotel yet? Because
when I was 18, Gillette, because we live in Massachusetts and Gillette's here. Gillette mailed me a razor, and it was like, "Congratulations on your 18th birthday." Do you think that happens with Neutral Milk Hotel? Like they just mail the kids a copy. They're like, "Here you go."
There's a mailing list that you get signed up on if you get your septum pierced. Just like. They immediately go put your info in, and you get a copy of it.
They're like, "Let me see your thigh. Do you have a tattoo of some kind of Virgin Mary?" All right, we're good.
I will say, in defense of that record, though, like at the time, like I thought it was like it was another record that like if I never heard it again would be totally fine. But like I revisited that record a couple of years ago. Like it's a pretty good record.
So
like,
how did you not hear No Doubt until like 2 weeks ago? He'd never heard him before. He goes, "What's a No Doubt?" And I'm like, "Go listen to No Doubt." And he's like, "I don't like it." And I'm like, "I don't understand. You never heard it."
Like I was familiar. Like I'd heard the name, but like I don't think I'd ever like right. So
you
like
just
in
never
19,
put the pieces
like
together.
1995, I worked at Tower Records.
And you never heard No Doubt?
that's like right in the middle of it.
In 1995, and like when I stopped working at Tower Records, I never had to listen to that bullshit ever again. Like, man.
What year did Tragic Kingdom come out? Is that 97?
Yeah, let's look that up, because
Yeah.
that's important. Tragic
Why
Kingdom.
the fuck are we talking about No Doubt, man?
Because you didn't know who it was. She's marrying
Major
that guy
Touchstone.
from... was she marrying the guy from the Teen Idol or American Idol or something? 95 was when Tragic Kingdom came out.
Yeah. October 95, is that what that says?
So if you quit before then,
He came out and he was like, "I'm done."
Oh, I didn't quit. I got fired.
Speaking of 1998 records that people won't shut up about, there's my friend Duster.
Oh yeah, you tweeted this week that you had to listen to a Duster record, and a Duster record followed by a Reverend Horton Heat record.
No, it was the playlist radio. It was like an iHeart Radio, so this makes it even worse because there's a limited pool of artists that they can pull from because it's iHeart Radio and it's garbage. It's only the most mainstream names.
Yeah.
So it was like Duster, and every time, so that it played a lot of Duster songs because it didn't know what else to do. And then stuff like that. So every time I'd walk over to the espresso machine, I just wanted to die. It was just like, ugh. And then my, and I can enjoy Duster, but I don't want to listen to it while I'm working. And then my other coworker went and changed it to Reverend Horton Heat after that.
You don't like Reverend Horton Heat?
At least this is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
can work
probably
to this. It's upbeat.
he himself is probably a shitty dude, but those
yeah,
early records are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Really?
was
You think the
definitely one of
Reverend's a shitty dude?
Didn't he do like a bunch of concerts like in the beginning of COVID? Like,
Yeah, he was like, I'm not canceling anything, and
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
That's a
working
bummer.
musician, but for the sake of
Yeah, you're a reverend. You gotta do right by the people.
yeah. In '98, I was 11 and 12, so I was listening to Eve Six's self-titled album.
I'm glad somebody brought that up.
I saw it on the charts, and I knew we
Yeah.
were going to talk about it, because that's a huge record for us.
Yeah.
Nothing but faith and nothing. That was that, right?
Yeah.
I've never heard it.
Yeah. Wanna put my tender heart in a blender. How do you forget that line?
Well, you did not go roller skating in 1998.
I did not. You're right. You're right.
You're
right.
That made me feel like I was a great skater.
Do you think somebody grew up and got, I want to get put my tender heart in a blender, like tattooed on their arm?
I hope someone has that big fly on their arm somewhere.
Yes. With the sticks behind it?
Yeah. That record is solid. I've listened to it so much that I don't know that I can be impartial about it, because I was so young, and it was like a mainstream record that I was like allowed to have. But yeah, I listened to that and the two records after very extensively. So
Yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up into that one. It's way too hard to be objective.
And also, The Offspring's Americana came out in '98.
I had completely abandoned them by then.
It was perfect for me in the 6th grade, though. So.
Was that the one with Fly for a White Guy on it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was like their last album that had like actual hits on it.
Yeah. I was into Smash, like crazy into Smash in 8th grade. Like I had a tape and I would listen to it from my house to school when I walked. But then after that, it wasn't as fierce. I always wanted fierce in my music, even pop music. I wanted something that was just pushy, Either it said something it wasn't supposed to say, or it had a beat that was weird or something. So that one lost me. But Eve 6, I honestly, that was to me better than Americana. Like that was that record, Americana.
Mm-hmm. I'd say it's probably better. Objectively, it's better.
Yeah, it's better songwriting. It's more interesting.
There's some good hooks on Americana, but yeah, overall, it's funny because they were a lot younger too. They were like teenagers.
Oh shit!
When Eve 6 started, so like Offspring was already probably 30.
Yeah, easily.
Easily. By the time Americana came out with their Ricky Lake references. We should get into the album. So we gave you 98, and you picked Non Compos. I don't think I've said this out loud. Non Compos Mentis. Smile when you hate.
That whole record. You're gonna have a hard time shutting me up about this.
Let's just make this clear that Nicholas picked this record.
I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
And you do not stand by his better than American Nervosa stance?
This
I
is
can't
breaking
say I
up
was
the
really-
band.
I wasn't a really huge fan of American Nervosa either. I got that record because like a bunch of people were like, "Oh man, Botch is awesome," and I was sort of like, "It's all right. It's all right." Like, didn't really do it for me. The Non Compos Mentis record also.
Yeah, but you knew those guys. You at least knew Jeff, and you knew the scene. You knew like Wonder Drug and stuff.
So sort of like this is one of those ones that like I'm sort of kicking myself. Like I should have asked Jesse because like a buddy of mine I used to be in a band with. I know that I remember seeing those guys playing because they played in like orange jumpsuits, and I know that I like one of those guys was like friends with people that I knew somehow, but I don't remember like again it's like it's half my lifetime ago. I don't remember the connection completely, but like I definitely saw these guys around that time. They were okay.
He's lying. They were amazing.
My thing. Wasn't my thing.
Let me run through some stats about the record. They're from Burlington, Vermont.
Correct.
Which is crazy because you don't think about too many bands coming out of Vermont. They are not to be confused with the Texas no wave band or the German dark wave band called Non Compos Mentis. They existed from 97 to 99. This is their first album. Let's see, it was released on Wonder Drug Records, and I want to talk about that in a little bit too. And the personnel on this album is Horace, aka Dan Bushy on bass, Willis, aka Greg Beadle on drums, Chester, aka Matt Roy on guitars, and Butch, aka Jeff Hallett on vocals. Dan and Matt would later play in Drowning Man, and Greg was in The Hope Conspiracy. And
THP.
the last thing would be the record was produced by Glenn Robinson, who produced albums by Gwar, Queensryche, and Voivod. So,
all right. Now that we go through the personnel, now I'm remembering some more of the connections. Like, all right, yeah.
So when I gave you the list of 98, and then you like sent me two choices back, the other one you pick was Sam Blackchurch, correct?
That again was me just sort of spouting my mouth off. But yeah, there was the Divine Comedy. But Morgan, what would you have picked if I didn't bleed out like a goat?
Like for 1998, for records that came out in 98? Like, shit, man. I wouldn't have picked those records.
You're more of a 97 guy, right?
So, like, just from like flipping through my records, the ones that came out that were like big for me that year, like Shellac, Terraform, that record was huge, like for me. There's a band called Kill Sadie. I toured with those guys in 1998, and their record Half Cock Concepts came out in 1998. For me, that was like personally because the band I was in, we toured with those guys for like 5 weeks. Like that record would have been. So the guys in Kill Sadie went on to be in These Arms Are Snakes, Pretty Girls Make Graves, Minus the Bear, Sharks Keep Moving, Jaguar Love. Like they went on to be in a bunch of other stuff. But like Kill Sadie was an awesome band, and that record was awesome. I would have chose those ones. Like there's a Blonde Redhead record that came out.
Wait, which Blonde Redhead record?
In expression of the inexpressible or whatever.
I know that one, but
it's not really a punk rock record, but like for me, like 1998, like that record was like, like had the girlfriend that was like listening to like the Braid record, and I was like trying to get her to listen to the Blonde Redhead record. Like, why don't you like this record? Like, this is poppy. Like, I don't. This record is amazing. I'm so sick of this other shit. Like,
nah.
There was a His Heroes Gone record came out in 98.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the good one though, right? It was like the one that was like later. His Heroes Gone.
What bad record did they put out, man?
That one.
They didn't put out any bad records, man. This is. You guys see what I had to put up with? I had to play this band. He's picking whatever. And showing me the bad His Heroes Gone record. Come on now.
I think if you had a grand jury review my selection, they would vote that it was okay. It was a good selection.
both Wonder Drug bands, which I thought was interesting that both the records you picked were the same label. Do you like have any like connections to that label, or did they just mean a lot to you at that time?
I mean, for me personally, yeah, it was definitely so. If you dial it back to Nicholas when he was like a 15-year-old kid, I was interested in more outsider music. Like when I first started getting into music, I was put off by the fact that music is congregation, that music's like everybody getting together and having a nice time. That really bothered me, and I resisted it. And then when I started moving my teens, I was really impressed with artists who would do things like Tiny Tim, Weird Al Yankovic, like people that were doing things that were basically annoying. And when I got into punk rock...
And that's how you decided to live the rest of your life.
I was like, this could be a personality for me. I was like, there has to be something else, but I could never quite put my finger on it. And my friend of mine was like, if you like all this, you should check out the band Stompbox. And Stompbox wasn't playing any all-ages shows at the time, but 6L6 was. 6L6 was on the early incarnation of Wonder Drug called Summit. It's the same label, same guy. And I went to go see them, and a band opened for them called 5 Seconds Expired, which was Jeff Howlett's band before Non Compos Mentis. And that changed everything for me. I was like, wait, you can fucking turn things up to 11? You can put a bass through a rat pedal and put it through like a guitar amp? This is not what I'm used to. And it was just a feeding frenzy after that. And I bought everything on Ken's label. Ken's the guy from Wonder Drug. So that for me, I know it's not Morgan's, history, but for me, it was a very pivotal collection of things that happened with Wonder Drug for me and the Boston music scene.
I was looking at the other Wonder Drug records, and the only other names I recognized really was Model Under the Well, and they put out the Acacia Strains 2002 demo.
Oh, weird. I didn't realize that.
It's like, oh, weird. That's an odd... They didn't put anything else they did out, but just the demo.
Well, they put out a little-known band, that was really fucked up and weird called Slug Hog. And I think Morgan can say a little bit more. For us, that has been an increasingly important part of our lives. I mean, it was already an important part. Morgan, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so Wonder Drug put out they put out a bunch of different stuff. It's like a local label, so it was all, like New England type bands on varying levels of quality, shall we say.
I was hoping you'd take quality.
They put out this band called Slug Hog, and Slug Hog was like they had 2 bass players, a guitarist that basically just soloed all the time, but not like Eddie Van Halen, he just played some weird shit.
Yeah, just shit bag in your face solos that didn't make any sense.
Right. And they were super loud. They were definitely doing sort of like a noise rock kind of AMRAP type stuff, but totally their own thing. They were they were an awesome band. Wonder Drug put out that record also in 1998. Definitely at that point in time, I was just turning 21, but I had been going into bars, since way before that, when I shouldn't have been. A lot of Boston, there's a lot of places you could start going to shows at 18. They would just X your hands or whatever, So I was definitely I was seeing I was seeing Slug Hog play a bunch leading up to this. They were awesome. They were awesome. And one of the bass players, this guy Andrew Schneider, we ended up I ended up being friendly with him. I shared a practice space with him and with one of his old bands after Slug Hog. His band shared the same practice space as my band. But we ended up recording with him, and he's done a bunch of awesome records. He did a bunch of the Unsane records.
Made Out of Babies.
He did there's that Cult of Luna and Julie Christmas record or whatever. He actually won a Grammy because he recorded all of the Blue Man Group stuff. And so he won a Grammy for best theater production or something.
Well, didn't he win a Juno Award because of Ken Mode? And it's the Grammys of Canada. The
Did
Juno
he?
Award. Yeah, I thought so. That was something.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he's a super talented dude and very nice guy. And so he played in this band Slug Hog, which was like it was like when we were going to record, I was sort of, Nicholas wanted to, like had a list of folks he wanted to record with, and I was like, oh well, let's hit up Andrew, and he was, I told him some of the bands he'd done, and he was like, oh, that sounds all right, but like later I told him like, yeah, he was in Slug Hog. And Nicholas was like,
pissed myself. Like trickle of urine. And when we got to New York to go record with him, we were waiting for him to come to the studio and unlock it and we could load in. And in my head, I was doing that thing when you meet like a famous person. I was like, don't say anything about Slug Hog. Don't say anything about Slug Hog. And then the minute I saw him from across the street, I go, Slug Hog! And I was like, fuck. I did the thing.
In the car on the drive down to New York, you told me you were not going to mention Slug Hog to him. You were like, okay, I won't talk about it with him.
That was my plan for the whole weekend. I'd be like, well, what did you do in Slug Hog? Could you make this sound like Slug Hog, please?
Nice to meet you. I'm Slug Hog. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, let me try this again. You're Slug Hog. I'm also Slug. Fuck.
Yeah.
So Non Compos Mentis, yeah, that whole label, and then they shared a building, the EMF building, with New Alliance, where Andrew worked. And New Alliance was putting out Converge. They were putting out Big Business. They were the mastering place and the recording place for a lot of those records. What was it? Nate's other band, the one where he played guitar and sang. What was that band? Something Horse or something. You know what I'm talking about? Nate Newton.
Who?
Nate Newton. He did another band. Doom Riders.
Yeah. Something Horse.
I don't know.
So this record is kind of, I guess it's described as mathcore, and I guess it kind of technically is, but it's on the more like the bloodlit dead guy side, that sludgy mathy. I mean, it's not mathy. It's got some cool time signatures. I guess that's the mathy aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like it's got strong bloodlit vibes. Like I listened to the bloodlit record that came out in '98, which was Seraphim Falls. It's not my favorite bloodlit record, but it's in that vein. And then you mentioned early on that Dead Guy was like one of your bands too.
Huge
so
for me,
and that came out '97, which is funny because like we had a weird mix up with this record too, because like half the internet says 97, the other half says 98. But the ones that say 98 attribute a specific date. They say like April 9th, 1998. So I assume they're probably more accurate.
I mean, it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. It makes more sense with 98 too.
Yeah. Makes this record so interesting, and the reason that I think it is better, American Nervoso was like Botch trying to do something very particular and trying to outline themselves, and they clearly perfected it one album later. Because I mean, that's a record we could spend. They could have a podcast just about We Are the Romans, and so that record just, I know that strikes a lot of things. And when Forever Comes Crashing, like, yeah, that was a big record for Converge, but I think there was much bigger records, like No Heroes was a huge record for them. But the reason that Non Compos Mentis record strikes a chord with me is that the context, like the lyrics are very sarcastic, like Dead Kennedys, which I liked very much, and I wasn't seeing a lot of in Boston hardcore. I think that style of plugging in like a Boss DS1 or like super overdrive pedal and turning down the tone knob so it's like it's interesting. The orange jumpsuits. In live, it was more about not giving a shit. Like they would just run around and stuff, and that's always been very appealing to me. Is when you go to see a show and you feel like you're capturing a moment rather than you're going to a show and it's just kind of watching somebody paint a picture of. I think that kind of expressionism is pretty fucking cool. So that, for me, is part of why that record stood out so much. And the songs are like a minute long, which we also do, like minute-long songs.
I was going to mention, too, that it was one of my favorite parts about the record is, like, compared to American Nervosa, I was like, this record's shorter, and kind of like gets to the point a little quicker in the songs. Because some of those Botch songs kind of go on for a really long time, and it's like you had the cool idea in the beginning of the song, and then you just kept running it to the end. But this record, it's more of like to the point, and then there's not really many that go over 2 minutes, right? There's like the
next
track.
record they did, the first track was called like 52, and it was a 52-second song.
Yeah, I listened to that one too because it was so short. I had to like actually go to like SoulSeek and download it.
You're on a list somewhere. Okay.
I was like, how do I get this? I can't even find a YouTube stream of it anywhere. But
you had to ask the FBI agent behind you, hey, how do I search this?
What keywords do I need?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely like sort of a downfall of a lot of those metalcore bands, like particularly in that era too. Like definitely, like Converge is a great band, but like at that point in time too, like I used to make fun of them a little bit. That's because like a friend of mine was super into them, and every time we would play them, I'd start like holding up my fingers, counting off the parts for the song. And I would run out of fingers on my hands because it's like, oh, you're on minute 5 of the song, so you're on part 12, because it was like it never came back around, and like those guys are awesome, like I couldn't play that shit, but like definitely a lot of those bands, man, jerking off. They were jerking off.
I saw my friend was playing for Toxic Narcotic for a while, and they were doing a tour with MDC, and he brought me to a couple of the shows, and we were just watching. And what's his name, Dirk or whatever, had the guy from the last remaining member of MDC had some young kid on guitar, and he goes, "This guy's been wanking all tour. Watch him wank." And the guy's like shredding on an Ibanez over MDC songs, and then he popped a string, and I remember my friend Tristan goes, "How's he gonna wank now? He can't wank anymore."
Shredding Ibanez to MDC.
Doesn't
make any sense at all.
I don't get it, man. Like, just fucking give people what they want to see. Don't go up there and be like, "Watch me jerk." It's not okay.
Dylan, what is your opinion on this record? Because I will say this morning you texted me, you don't know.
Get me in trouble.
I am not in the mood to talk about this mathcore record today.
It's been a pretty crappy week at work. That's the main. Man. It's been a fun conversation so far. So, and it's always that way. It's like, I didn't really maybe connect with a record, and then we're gonna talk about it, and I still have a ton of fun. So, I think this is an interesting record for the time period, for this being a huge year for mathcore, if you want to call it that. Otherwise, like complex rhythms in metalcore, just polyrhythms in metalcore. I think it's interesting. I think this really does stand alone. I would compare it to a little bit to Coalesce too, but a lot of noise rock, a lot of Unsane, a lot of that sound informing what they're doing, which I think is interesting. It's not trying to jam as many parts into the song like Converge would have been doing. I thought on the first track, my first impression, though, the first connection I made was to Training for Utopia, which was the Christian answer to mathcore.
You're not wrong. I mean, that's what it was. Yeah.
Which
I listened to
I think is
today.
A pretty good band. I think they hold up, especially in the vocals. Vocally, they sound very similar, at least to my ears. But
I'm just like, between like all of those bands, vocally, they're all kind of unique. Like, definitely Jake Bannon's unique, and Sean Ingram is unique. I don't know the Botch dude. Oh, Dave Varellin, that's his name?
Yeah.
I think that's his name, the Botch guy. It's so funny how important Botch were for like then, and then maybe a couple years after they broke up, but like their impact in like 2020 isn't quite as like recognized. I don't know. It's funny that Botch were hot then, but now Converge is the one who's won out over the time.
Well, Converge kept going. That's a big part.
And they adapted. They're like a hardcore band now.
Yeah, but even like Coalesce kind of has a better reputation, but they also went longer too. So I guess it was like when Botch broke up, it was like, holy shit, they broke up right when they had all this momentum. And I guess that was kind of like the story propelled them, and everybody's collection then, but yeah.
I think there's a lot of overrating that goes on with Botch.
Yeah, because they have
I really loved them, and they were really, really important to me as a teenager, getting into heavy music and hardcore, branching out from Norma Jean.
you mean Botch Part 2?
Right.
Yeah.
Botch has the distinction of being they were imitated too much shortly after they broke up. And I think that maybe brings them down a notch in my mind. But they were a big deal. I mean, to me even.
Yeah.
So
Dave Knutson, that's how you say Knutson. He had like an Eddie Van Halen innovation thing happening when he played guitar. And then, like you said, so many people regurgitated that and mirrored that and parroted that it started to really water down. Because at the time, he was definitely coloring outside the lines. But you can't see that now because so many people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna get one of those Line 6 pedals and go between 2 amps and all this shit." So it's kind of hard to recognize that with modern eyes.
That dude is still a total beast on guitar, though.
Dude, he is.
So he stopped, he stopped doing Botch, and then he plays it in Minus the Bear or whatever, which is like, totally different sounding stuff, but like, and I'm not a huge fan of that band or whatever, but like, that dude is a motherfucker on guitar. Like, that dude plays guitar like nobody else. And definitely I've seen him like on lists of like best indie rock guitarists of all time. Like, that dude can play guitar. Like,
yeah. And he can play against himself. I remember I've never been able to do it right, so that's why I haven't tried to do it with this band or anything. But when I saw them at the Middle East, he would like play a part and loop it on one amp and then play another part against it while the bass player was playing it was so broad for such a little band, He's definitely one of the few guitarists I've seen like doing like the tapping stuff. Yeah.
That didn't look like a total tool bag. Like like he was just playing the song, like doing his tapping stuff, but like he didn't look like a douche.
I definitely remember like we came through Botch through Norm. This is so weird. We're talking about Botch more than we're talking about this record, but we came through to Botch through Norma Jean just because of when it came out, and then later realizing I was like, God, they ripped everything off for this record. The song titles are exactly like that.
The producer engineer.
Yeah, the
they went and recorded with Matt Bales.
It's just
who was in Minus the Bear.
Right.
Just throwing that one out there too.
So like let's pull it back to Non Compos Mentis. Like, so this record is the exact opposite of that. Everything is sharp in Botch. Everything is mushy almost on this record.
Yes, thank you. That's one of the parts I liked about it. It was like it almost felt like a demo, but it's a full album that I know Ken paid for them to get mastered and paid for them to record properly.
Yeah, that Glenn guy who did like the Queensryche records probably like, are you sure this is what you want to do? He also recorded War, so
I think this record, I hadn't listened to this record in 20 years or something. So like I re-listened to it at like three or four times. It definitely gets better towards the end, but it also suffers from like I wasn't into a lot of this sort of metalcore stuff that was happening at this point in time because like it's all the same goddamn tempo. Like all of these bands love playing at that and by 1998 I was like sick of that tempo. Like I didn't want to see people mosh. Like Boston, unfortunately, like for like hardcore and stuff, was like at that point in time was really overrun with like tough guys.
Yes,
so
bad.
It was like all these fights at shows, and like I just like by this point, I was definitely like not interested in bands that were like, yeah, let's see everybody mosh, and they were like playing right at that, like that's the tempo, right?
No, and they played with like Piecemeal. That was one of those bands. And I remember I went to a show and it was like Piecemeal being like, somebody better fucking die tonight. Let's do this. And then you had Non Compos come out in orange jumpsuits with the guy calling himself the Ninja. It felt like it was a nice change of pace.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely like you were saying earlier, Nicholas. Like they definitely were like a lot more tongue in cheek. Like they were not taking themselves so seriously. Like. They were not like, we're tough. We're so tough. It's like, I don't give a shit how tough you are. Like, go to the gym. Like that's that doesn't impress me. Like it's not really. I don't want to get kicked when I go to a show. Like I just want to hear some bands. Like.
Do you
I'm not
remember the band
by,
Fury of
like-
Five from New Jersey? Do you remember that band?
Which band?
Fury of Five.
I remember the name, but
I shit you not. You can probably find it on the internet somewhere. They were selling shirts at their merch table that had the handicap logo with a circle with a line through it. That was Tough Guy to them back then.
right.
Can you fucking believe that?
But didn't they become like a meme? Weren't they like a meme band? Like
They were fucking dicks. They played with Blood for Blood all the time. Fucking dicks.
Yeah, the one dude looks like a wrestler, like a pro wrestler. He is super buff and has tons of tattoos. He's got like a Vanilla Ice hat on.
That was Tough Guy. If you were into Vanilla Ice, you were a fucking mean bastard.
Well, because Vanilla Ice is a mean bastard. Like now.
Actually, I think Vanilla Ice, like he did a tour around 1998.
Yeah.
Like right around this time, he did a tour with a hardcore band.
That is true. I had that record. My sister
He was
gave
like
it to me.
trying to revive his career or whatever. I think that might have been 1998. Like
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He renamed the song Ice Ice Baby Too Cold, and he did it as a hardcore metal song.
And now he flips houses.
He's good at it. Making the moolah.
I like seeing them come out in like the orange jumpsuits and like the ski masks was probably like, oh shit, what's this? Like, what is this band gonna do? I guess it's that theatrical.
And it was like Morgan said, to have a band. Yeah, and have a band that wasn't, didn't have 1,000 parts. It was like 4 parts per song, and it was like it got to the point. Like you listen to what is it, Beauty Queen, and there's like a little bit of a talky part. For me, it felt like having a version of Dead Guy in New England that I could see for $5 whenever I wanted. Because Dead Guy for me was like I wanted to talk about that record so bad, but I fix when Fixation on a Coworker came, so
Yeah.
can't really talk about that. But yeah, it just, for me, it felt like that. And I think it's interesting in contrast Morgan's experience with not particularly giving a shit about this band, with me being like obsessed with this band and this record.
I hear the Dead Guy vibes on like Any Takers, the second track on here.
Yes, big time on that one. Yeah.
And then like there's where is it? There's like another song that like kind of it has, I guess it's more the Bloodlet thing, but I got some vibes of Thoughts of Ionesco when I was listening to this record. I don't know if you were familiar with that band, but they're like, where were they from? Were they a Florida band? They could be a Midwestern band there too. They had stuff come out on No Idea, but I don't know that they were necessarily from there. They were kind of like this. They were like real noisy, low end hardcore, but then they would do like more like atmospheric stuff on the record, like stuff that you would hear more on like a Neurosis record, but like between tracks on a Neurosis record,
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, they put out a record. They were from Detroit.
Okay, Midwest. Okay.
They put out a record in '98 called Skin Historic.
They had like kind of complex. It's written right here as complex arrangements, improvisational sections inspired by free jazz. So like
Beautiful.
There's little elements of that in there too, which they never pull up.
Yeah, more on the experimental edge, while still being like not going so far into like the post-hardcore. It's like still retaining some meat, some of that heftiness of hardcore that you want. It's really visceral and satisfying. That's something I got a lot from this Non Compos record. It's almost like just that focused, visceral, in your face. Like you said, it sounds like a demo. It's just like so noisy and muddy and thick sounding.
Yeah, the drumming's good too. He played I think it was just kick, snare, hi-hat, and then he would crash the ride, I'm pretty sure. I don't think he had much of a big kit. It was like jazz style.
Yeah, it didn't sound... He didn't have like kit panning fills or anything crazy like that.
Morgan's like that too. I like simplicity. Like, I think there's something to be said for, having the least amount of stuff and doing the most with it versus having like a huge pedal board and, tons of drums and like a 20-string bass and blah, blah, blah.
I just don't want to carry any more crap, man.
No, this guy hates carrying crap.
I mean, the drums I play are like ridiculously large already. We got like way too many amps for like, seriously, there's 2 people in this band and we'll play with 5-piece bands and like we have more amps than they do.
Good.
Like pretty consistently. We're also usually twice as loud, which is good, but like I don't want to carry any more stuff, man. Like that's my whole thing.
You know what Patrick said? So we were on the show called Lowell Train a bunch of years back, and there was like a small local television show, and they had interns they got from the nearby college, UMass Lowell. And I guess they came, and their first day was the day that we were on that television show. And at the end of that day, like we were done recording, they quit because they said that it was. Yeah, I was like, that's pretty good. Like, I know I shouldn't be happy about that, but like,
oh man, no, that's totally mission accomplished, man.
Yeah.
That's right. Like I've cleared a couple rooms in my time. Like, there's something to it. There's something like, well, if they're not gonna like it, like shit, if they hate us enough that they leave, that's awesome.
I think it's the way to be.
Better than a mediocre response. Better than just...
Yeah, it just feels something, right? Like the shows that you forget. Like I saw, oh God, I shouldn't do this because it's heresy again. But Willie Nelson, I saw him about 2 years ago. That guy should have hung up his spurs a while ago. And it was just a forgettable experience. The songs weren't what they used to be. He clearly was just doing it for, I don't know why he's still touring. Maybe he just loves music a lot or something. I don't want that. I don't want that experience that people forget. I'm going
to tell you that weed doesn't pay for itself.
Maybe that's what it is. He sells weed now, though.
Willie needs to be touring to keep up with that.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. The gummy farm needs extra fertilizers.
He's making all the money just to donate it to Farm Aid.
There you go. Still, Farm Aid was like, yeah, the first time wasn't enough. Can we have more money, Willie Nelson?
Every Farm Aid lineup is the same. If you've ever looked at them, it's the same. It's him, Neil, John Mellencamp, and then everything under that. It's like either who cares or it's like his kids.
TV on the radio.
Yeah.
You're like, what? You know what we were talking about the other day? So Morgan and I vividly remember the band Asuk or Asuk because they had the umlaut.
Yeah.
They were the hottest fucking...
Asuk, man. Don't...
All right, Asuk.
Like...
They were such an important band in the 90s. Like, you could not fucking meet a punk that didn't know that band, and nobody remembers them anymore. What the fuck is that? They were so important at the time.
Who doesn't remember them?
I remember Asuk.
Yeah,
I remember the butt flaps on the crust punks. Like
they all had the butt flap from World. What was it? Something I forget the name of the record, but the one with that you just sent me. The had Misery Index on it.
I considered, but did not follow through. I one time dressed up as a crust punk for like a dance at my tiny little Christian college. It was the Freaks and Geeks dance, so I went freak. I dressed up in like black jeans, black jacket, and I printed out all of these different like crust and hardcore band logos and safety pinned them so that it looked like patches. And I contemplated Asuk, but I didn't follow through because
that's going to be
Christian college. I didn't want to get into that kind of trouble.
Those photos are going to be your Justin Trudeau photos. Those are going to haunt you, man. You culturally appropriated so hard.
I went to one of those too because we went to the same college,
what?
Not the same time. I failed. He graduated. There's a difference. But they also had that Freaks and Geeks dance when I was there, and I went as a hardcore kid. So I had like camo shorts, big hoodie, and then like a bandana across, and then like big X's on the back of my hands. So that we had the same idea.
We did the punk dressing. It's like that's probably a Hard Times article. Punk dresses up as themselves for Halloween or something.
Awesome.
No, I think it's a Nothing Nice to Say strip. Yeah, that seems like.
What's nothing nice to say?
Do you remember the comic strip, the web comic?
Slim?
No.
Were they in like Razor Cake?
I remember Razor Cake, but I
think
never subscribed or anything.
They were probably printed in there, and he had a website. Would have been 2000s, mid 2000s, mostly when he was doing this. And he did a lot of. Mitch has done a lot of like flyers and for shows, like a lot of off with their head stuff.
Lemuria, a lot of that fest band type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, No Idea Records and all that shit.
Yeah, in that vein, yeah. So I found the band's MySpace.
They had a MySpace?
Yeah, they had a MySpace, and it's like how everyone else's MySpaces kind of like got wiped. I don't know why that site even exists anymore. Somebody owns it, but it's like no one does anything with it.
Justin Timberlake, he gave them a bunch of capital to come back up.
And they didn't do anything with it. They just were like, I hope they like took all that money and were like, yeah, we're gonna revamp the site, and then just like went to an island or somewhere. But
for real, Justin Timberlake gave them money?
I'm 100% on that. He was involved with the rebranding and reopening of MySpace.
Did he have anything come out in 1998?
Oh, maybe. I thought the Backstreet Boys were 98, no?
Yeah, but he wasn't in Backstreet Boys, though, was he?
Oh, he was in... Which one was it? In Sync or was it O-Town?
Yeah, he's in Sync, right? Right?
Yeah.
You know which band he was in, but you don't know No Doubt.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, because here's the thing is that I actually really like Justin Timberlake.
He is good. He did the song Butterfly, right? Sugar, baby, you're my butterfly.
That's Crazy Town.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, no, Justin Timberlake is so like I'm a total sucker for dudes with falsetto voices. So like he sounded like a lot like Michael Jackson to me, and like I'm in my 40s. Like Thriller was like I have the picture disc of Thriller from when that shit came out. Like that was like one of the first records I remember. Like as like I would have been like 5 or 6, I think, when that like losing my mind over that record. And like Justin Timberlake in my mind feels very similar to Michael Jackson. I shouldn't say feels like Michael Jackson. That's like a little weird, right?
Do you feel the same to you?
Right. But anyway, I like Justin Timberlake because he reminds me of Michael Jackson in a good way.
So the reason why I bring up the MySpace thing, though, was because you can still see part of their top 8. So, like, I'm assuming the other ones you can't see anymore are the ones who actually, like, deactivated their accounts while these accounts just, like, stayed up. So the top 8 for Non Compos Mentis, at least, like, 5 of them are Demigoat.
No idea.
5 Seconds Expired.
That was Jeff's old band.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Overcast. Like,
oh, Jesus.
Unearth.
Yeah, of course.
And Township.
There you go. Like, was Jonah in Township? No, Jonah wasn't. Jonah was in Milltown, right? Milton?
Yeah, Jonah was in Milltown. I bet one of those guys was in Township, though. Township, I'm sure there were some Vermont guys in Township. It's definitely, yeah.
I think one of them.
Yeah, man, Overcast. That band was all right. They should have been bigger than what they ended up being.
They became Shadows Fall, didn't they?
Yeah, but Overcast was better.
Or Kill Switch Engage or something like that. I don't remember.
I gotta pull up
Overcast. The singer was in Shadows Fall or whatever.
Yeah.
The drummer for Overcast. That dude played so hard, man. Like, I saw them in, like, 1994 or something, and, like, that dude knocked over, like, every single one of his cymbal stands, and I was like, I want to play drums like that dude. Like,
do you do it on purpose, or did you just knock him over?
No. Like, that dude just played so hard.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah, he was total beast. Like, yeah. That's that.
Last thing I have is I found an Amazon review for this album, and like I don't want to get all like how did this get made, but I thought it was pretty funny. It says this was bad in a whole new way. Bad is in all capital letters. says, I have never heard this mix of punk and a death metal kind of singer. This was a gift, and I don't know what my friend was thinking. It was so bad! In exclamations again. It will be flown like a frisbee to the nearest trash can. Don't tell my friend that I trashed the gift.
I want that as a review for our shit so bad. Like, I wish somebody would say that about us.
Imagine giving this to someone who is not into this kind of music. Like,
why would you do that, first of all? That's just rude. Yeah.
I wonder if they were just close enough. Like, they listened to a lot of, like, Metallica and, like, Rob Zombie, or I guess it would have been White Zombie in the 90s, probably. Yeah. And their friends just like, oh, you like heavy stuff? Here, check this out. And they didn't realize, like, there's too far. You gotta ease those people in.
I was curious about, like, the other stuff they rated, and their account is Mr. and Mrs. Science. And the other things they reviewed were like furniture and like kitchen appliances that they bought. So like, I don't think this was anywhere on their radar.
So they're just buying like assembling home furniture, and somebody's like, you know, you like Non Compos Mentis from Burlington, Vermont, 1998.
Yeah, I have no idea. I want to meet the person who gave it to him.
Yeah, maybe they're into cool stuff.
Maybe they're in the band.
Ooh. Dude, I think Jeff's kind of hung up on it. I think this was a big moment in his life because I went on YouTube and somebody with an account called 5 Seconds Expired uploaded a video for them. So I think maybe this is like, you know, Al Bundy was like hung up on the 3 touchdowns in one game. I think Jeff's hung up on like the Non Compos Mentis era of his life, you know.
I wonder if that's the same video that I looked up and like in the comments was Matt Roy, like one of the members of the band was just said like word or something like that.
Thanks for posting it, Jeff. Jeff, like, he writes back, I was in this band, you know that, right?
Yes, I was too.
Yeah.
I went and joined another band that got way more popular.
Drowning Man was pretty good. Morgan, did you like Drowning Man? We never talk about them.
No.
Oh, okay.
There were another so like in Burlington, Vermont, there was like this place 242 Main, which is was like an all ages, like a volunteer run all ages like punk rock space. You know, like they did all kinds of stuff, like, you know, like they had movies and all that stuff. But like that, if you were in a punk rock or a hardcore band and you were going to play in Burlington, you were probably going to play at that place, 242 Main. And I think that like some of the Drowning Man guys were like involved with that too. And because I was playing in a band with the guys who did that place called The Space in Worcester, you know, it's like a lot of, they all like sort of knew each other, you know, because it was like, oh, band, you know, like, you know, this DIY hardcore band is on tour. So like they're going to stop at The Space in Worcester. And then, you know, the next day they'll play in Vermont, you know, like at The Space. And then, you know, they'll play at like, it was like Studio 158 in Connecticut. I don't know. There was like, at that point in time, there was like ABC No Rio in New York. It was like a little circuit, you know, like it was like all the like volunteer run places or whatever. So I think some of the Drowning Man guys were involved with that. So that was cool.
Was 242 Main the DIY spot that Bernie Sanders opened?
It is. Good man. You know.
Yeah. Well,
he was involved. Yeah, he was involved with like approving funding or something like that.
Yeah, because he was like he was mayor, I think, at the time that you know that place opened, and like it was, you know, it's like a volunteer run community space. Like, where else are you gonna send teenagers, man? Like, shit, good on Bernie Sanders, right?
I think it's
like,
smart.
Yeah.
I grew up around here, and there was nothing to do except for get high, and so I was like, okay, I'll play music, and then I'll, you know, hurt myself. It was stupid, and so to have something to do, I think is really good for kids. And now they try to take it. It's all like luxury condos now and stores. So
yeah, is that stuff still around in North Carolina or in Arizona? Like, I know there's a little bit left in Massachusetts, but like in terms of the like volunteer run or like, you know, like sort of DIY, you know, like punk rock, you know, like that kind of stuff.
So North Carolina has, like, Asheville has a lot of like volunteer run like grocery stores and stuff like that. Not so much like any venues. There is like no, even like the punk venue is like paid employees doing that. And then I don't think Charlotte had anything like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Wilmington had something, but I don't know that scene very well.
The DIY level in North Carolina is primarily just like dive bars,
House shows.
And house shows. And I think probably occasionally you have like what we would do where it's just like, well, there's a coffee shop that has a half-foot tall stage and let's book hardcore shows there.
Yeah.
Which I think that comes and goes throughout the state. And that's probably the way it is across the country and probably the same in Arizona. Like when I was first starting to playing bands as a teenager, we did have a teen center, a YMCA teen center that had like a stage and a sound system, and they would book local hardcore bands. But that only lasted a couple of years. It just got to be the kids were too violent. Would spend most of the time outside smoking, so I think the board was like, we're not going to approve this anymore.
Yeah.
That ended. I mean, in Arizona and Phoenix,
that's how the way that. Oh,
there is one spot that I can think of that is like a true non-bar DIY space. It's called the Trunk Space, and it's connected to a church.
There. Yeah.
If you've played in Phoenix, there's a very large chance you played there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I played in Phoenix in 1998, and I think I might have played at that place.
Yeah,
I think it has been. It has.
I definitely missed. And I definitely like myself and the guys I was playing with. We were like pretty bad drunks at that point in time. All of us being like in our early 20s, and definitely we played at someplace in Phoenix, and then we stayed at some kid's house. It was like, oh yeah, you can stay with me, and it was definitely like we stayed at his parents' house, with his Mormon parents' house.
Oh.
So like we definitely smelled like 3-day-old, like multi-day long hangovers, like just sweating it out, and woke up Phoenix. It's super hot, and they were making like vegan pancakes for us. They were very nice people, but it was a little uncomfortable for me.
All I remember about Phoenix was that I got out of the van to go for a walk, and I remember thinking, man, why is the ground so slippery? And then I realized my shoes were melting. And I was like, this place is not for humans. This is not a human place. Like my shoes, why? Do your shoes melt? Do you have melty shoes, or do you spend a lot of time indoors?
I spend a lot of time indoors.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not walking across the asphalt very often.
I didn't think, because up here you walk everywhere. There's all these walkie spots, but I shouldn't have walked when I was there.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of wraps up our talk on the record. Yeah. What should we be looking out for Bedtime Magic? You're working on some new stuff, I've heard. I don't know if any of that's ready for public knowledge yet, but what do you all got going on?
So we have a split record coming out with this band called Greylock that are also from Mass. And Paul, who does Tor Johnson Records or whatever, he's going to put that out. So that'll be out in the next couple months. Those are some pretty cool guys. Paul's a real good dude, and the Greylock guys, they're also a two-piece band. They have an equal number of amplifiers as us, if not maybe more. I think we're still louder though, but that was sort of, we played a couple shows with them, and they were like, oh, you guys are with the band with all the amps. We're the other band with all the amps. Like, we helped each other carry our amps inside because, like we're both two-piece bands. They're real good guys. They're nice. They're nice guys, and the record should be pretty cool. We like it. And we're going to record again in February. We're going to record with Andrew Schneider again, the guy who was in Slughog, and he recorded all like the Unsane records, and not all of them, but a bunch of them. I don't know, Nicholas, what else have we got?
I'm looking at Justin's video, and it's frozen with an angry look on his face. He looks absolutely pissed. So I'm having trouble. I feel like I did something wrong. But we got that coming up. We've been writing like 10 to 11 new songs to try to work with on that, and we're recording it at the old Fort Apache up here. And One thing to mention about the Greylock split is that Coalesce. Remember Coalesce did a split with Get Up Kids, and they each covered one of each other's songs. We did that with Greylock, so that was a lot of fun. So we covered one of their songs, and they covered one of ours.
I think I lost everybody.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Your picture's just frozen.
Yeah, his picture froze too. But yeah, that's basically where we are. You know, we've always been a live band, so not playing live is a bit difficult for us. But I'm sure we'll get back to that at some point. Maybe a regime change, or maybe if everybody just wears their fucking masks. So.
Jesus, yeah, I know. They're saying like, what do they say now? It's like even with like a vaccine. Like it's still gonna be like a really long time because to get the people to adhere to it.
You guys still there? I think I lost everybody.
Yeah. Can you hear us? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, with the anti-vaxxers, that's gonna be a fun fucking road down to travel down. So
yeah. Well, yeah. We lost Morgan.
Yeah.
I guess you can let people know where to get your stuff online, your music, your social medias, all that good stuff.
Sure. So we're on Facebook, but we kind of hate it. We're also on Instagram, same thing. We're just not a social media savvy band. Like we're not the kind of people that like to take pictures of ourselves or anything. But we do spend time updating our Bandcamp, which is an amazing site. If you've never used it, it's worth checking out. Each make a page for themselves with all their music to stream, and you can buy songs, and you can often set your own price. So we have bedtimeboston.bandcamp.com. That's the best place to check us out, and that also links to the Facebook and the Instagram. And if anybody just wants to reach out with email, because it's like 2002 again, realbedtimemagic@gmail.com is us. That's basically it. It mostly comes to me. Morgan's not online most of the time, just like right now. You got kicked off.
And I guess the last thing we usually ask people is, do you have any charities that you like to personally shout out or donate to that you think, I think punk is very much a great way to get out strong messages as far as like the right shit we need to be doing. So like, do you have any that you personally like to donate to, or you think
yes,
we should?
It's actually great that you brought that up. We just put a song on a local comp called Warm Up Boston, and all the money from it raises capital for them to buy hats, gloves, and coats and things and blankets for people that are unhoused up here in Boston, in the Boston area. It gets very cold up here. So people can check that out and look for that record. And personally, I am a big supporter of the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center. So if people want to donate to that, that would be amazing. Or if they're not in the Boston area and want to donate to something like RAIN, the Rape and Incense Network, that would be really great too.
Awesome. I'll include links to all that stuff and then all your band stuff as well too.
Yeah, thank you.
But thanks a lot for doing the show. This is a really fun conversation.
Thanks for having us, and I'll try to do my Morgan voice. Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, just let him know that we wrapped up as soon as he fell off. So
okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. You guys are a lot of fun. You're very jovial people. You're very insightful, and I appreciate it. So.
Thanks a lot. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Bye.